In this video I'm going to show you how you can make edits to the data that you have imported into Connect Data. There are a few ways that you can make edits. You can either do them in bulk or you can actually go in and make individual edits one by one, and I will show you how to do both of those. So first of all, from the Connect homepage you need to click on Manage Data, and this will take us into Connect Data. Now I want to make changes to my year 13 for 17-18, so I'm going to click here on year 13, and this takes me into the student section and I can see the student details here. Now if I wanted to make individual edits, sort of go through one by one, if I knew what changes I needed to make, then I could actually just click on one of these little pencils down here, and that would allow me to edit the individual student information. So if, for instance, I knew that there were some disadvantage statuses that had changed, then I would be able to click on this icon, and you'll see this throughout the application, this little pencil used as an edit icon. So if I click on here, it will take me into the student information window. Now I can change things like disadvantage using the drop downs. If their tutor group had changed, I would be able to change that by typing, and I can also edit the average GCSE score in here, and if you do have any custom columns imported, you would be able to edit those down here as well. In terms of subject information like teaching sets and any results that this student has, you can make individual edits here. So if this student had remarks, then I would be able to come in and change that just like that. And if teaching sets had changed during the year, for instance, and I knew which teaching sets had changed, then I would be able to go in one by one and actually make those edits. Once you've made your edits, do remember to click Save in the bottom right. Now if you don't know exactly which changes have been made, if for instance you just know that there are some disadvantage statuses that have changed, or you know that you need to update your teaching sets, but perhaps you don't want to go through them one by one, you may not know what changes have been made, you may just have too many to do one by one going in individually. So we have a couple of ways that you can do bulk edits as well. So once you are in this student screen, in order to do your bulk edits, you need to click on Import Additional Data. Now this gives me two options, either Update and Merge or Overwrite and Replace. Today I'm going to be using Update and Merge to change some disadvantage statuses of my students, and I'm going to use that one because I only want to update the disadvantage. So the file that I will actually be importing today looks like this. I have my admission number, which is my student ID, and I have the column that I want to update. All other data, such as their names, tutor groups, any gender and ethnicity data, I want the software to leave as it is. I only want it to change this. So Update and Merge will find the changes that are in your file and sort of where it doesn't match the data that you have already imported, and it will make those changes for you and it will show you what it's doing. Overwrite and Replace, however, is more helpful if you have maybe students who have left or students who have dropped subjects. And so you have data that you actually want to remove from the system. It's possibly a more risky option because anything that isn't included in your import file will be removed from the system. So if, for instance, I imported this data and I used Overwrite and Replace, I might get a bit of a shock, because when that import finished, I would just be left with my admission number and the disadvantage column. So that is why we sort of suspect that mostly the update and merge is the one that people will be using, but Overwrite and Replace certainly does have its uses. I would just advise caution with that. So because I am wanting to update the student data, I'm going to choose Update and Merge and then click on Student Data. And this launches me into the Data Import wizard. So clicking on Next, you can just click through this wizard. I'm going to copy and paste my data, so Control A and Control C to highlight and copy, and Control V to paste that in. Clicking on Next, then the next step is the column mapping. Now the software has recognised that admission number is going to be used as student ID, and disadvantage has been automatically mapped as well. Clicking on Next, we have some missing values for disadvantage. That's not necessarily an issue. These are non-critical errors. Not all of your students need to have values, but if you wanted to go in and add these, then you can click on Edit and choose a value. Clicking Next, I have this confirm step, and this is where it shows me what values are going to be added and what values are going to be changed. So there are some changes here to my disadvantage. I can hover over and see what the previous value was, and I can see that this little star indicates that this value is new. So these are for the students who have updated values. If I collapse this, I can see that there are also students who didn't have any updates. So this update and merge function is really useful when you're not sure where the changes have taken place. You probably don't want to delete any data from your file, but you want the software to go through and find the changes and make those changes. So if I click on Finish, then that will make those changes for me, and now all I would need to remember to do is go into my grade points screen and republish any grade points that has affected. So my Key Stage 5 exam results grade point was previously green. It was live for users. So now if I wanted those changes to go through into my exam results grade points or any reports I had ordered, I would need to click this check and publish and go through that. Before I do that, I do want to show you the overwrite and replace functionality, because as I say, it is useful at times. So the example that I have is a teaching sets import. Now, I know that some students have dropped some subjects. I know that some students have changed their subjects or picked up new ones, but I'm not entirely sure where those changes have happened. So I've just exported this from Sims again, and I want to make these changes. So in order to do that, what we would recommend doing, because you have students who have dropped subjects and you would want to remove that data, you can click on, again, the import additional data, but the overwrite and replace might be more appropriate for this one. Because it's my teaching data and my teaching sets, I'm going to click on teaching data, and again this launches the teaching data wizard. So clicking on Next, again I'm just going to copy and paste this data in, so Control A to highlight and Control C to copy and Control V to paste. Click on Next. Now I can skip quite a few of these columns, so I just need my student ID, subject, teaching set and teacher, and the rest I can skip. My subjects are all mapped already because I have already sort of imported my data once, and my subject names are coming in the same format. So clicking on next, I have a couple of duplicates, that's not a problem, you can just remove them using the little bin here. And clicking on next, I have some missing values. Not necessarily an issue. Sometimes teachers' names won't be imported, or there may not be a need to import a teaching set for a certain subject, so it would simply be a missing value. That is a non-critical error, and it won't stop you moving forward with your import, but the physics teaching sets will still be imported. So if I click on next, now it takes me to a confirm step, and this is it's really handy just to see what updates have been made. So here I've got my 2 records that have been added for A-level history. So these are my students who have picked up a subject. I've got my 14 deleted records. These are my students who have dropped subjects. And I have my updates where teaching sets and teachers have changed. If you hover over, you can see the previous value for either the teachers or the teaching sets. And there are also my students who didn't have any updates to their teaching sets or their teachers, and it will leave those be, but this feature will delete the ones who no longer appear within my import file. So if I click on finish, that will make those edits for me, and if there were a few students that you wanted to go in and check, then you could do so by clicking on this little edit icon and just make sure that all of that has gone through. Additionally, if you do ever want to check your teaching data, you can export it from here. It's quite a handy tool really, because if you export the teaching data from here, then it will actually be in, well, it will have your ALPS subject names. So if you're re-importing it after making some edits, then those subjects will automatically be mapped because they'll already be in the ALPS format.